I only wanted to give my daughter one happy afternoon after losing her father. Instead, I took her to the place that took her from me too. The worst part isn't that we never found her. The worst part is that sometimes my phone still rings, and Carly asks if I'm still counting. My name is Wendy Parker. 1 year ago, my 8-year-old daughter, Carly, disappeared during a game of hide-and-seek at Chippewa Lake Park in North Ohio. To this day, police have no suspect, no body, and no real explanation. It started as a simple afternoon trip. Carly had been different since her father died. Quieter, smaller somehow. She carried her pink stuffed bunny everywhere and barely laughed anymore. So when she asked me to take her to the old abandoned amusement park, I said yes. Chippewa Lake Park was the kind of place every kid in northern Ohio heard rumors about. Rusted rides, broken ticket booths, old trails swallowed by trees. Teenagers went there to scare each other. Ghost hunters filmed in the dark. Most parents stayed away. But that afternoon, it didn't look evil, just sad. The Ferris wheel stood frozen above the trees. The old carousel was covered in leaves. The funhouse windows were cracked and black. Somewhere near the woods, a red child's jacket hung from a dead branch, twisting slowly, even though there was almost no wind. Carly noticed it too. She squeezed her bunny tighter and whispered, "Mom, do you think somebody lost that?" I told her it was probably nothing. I was wrong. Near the old Midway, another family was taking pictures. Their kids were laughing and playing hide-and-seek. Carly watched them like she wanted to remember how to be happy. "Can I play?" she asked. I almost said no, but I could see the whole area. The Ferris wheel, the arcade, the funhouse, the tree line. Nothing felt dangerous yet. One boy covered his eyes and started counting. Carly smiled at me for the first time in weeks. Then she ran toward the funhouse and called back, "I found the perfect hiding place." Those were the last words my daughter ever said to me in person. At first, nobody panicked. The kids searched behind booths, under broken benches, around the carousel. The parents laughed, thinking Carly was just good at hiding. Then 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then the other children stopped smiling. One little girl pointed toward the Ferris wheel and said, "She went that way with the tall man." There was no tall man. At least, none of us had seen one. We searched everything. The arcade, the snack stand, the bathrooms, the funhouse, the woods. I screamed Carly's name until my voice cracked. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. When I answered, all I heard was static. Then Carly whispered, "Mommy, why did you stop counting?" That was the moment I knew this wasn't a normal disappearance. And what happened next is the reason I still sleep with every light on. But to understand why Carly was taken, you have to understand what Chippewa Lake Park was long before the rides rusted, before the police tape, before my daughter's bunny was found beneath the Ferris wheel, still warm in the cold October air. Because the truth is, Carly wasn't the first child to vanish there, and I'm terrified she won't be the last. Police surrounded Chippewa Lake Park before sunset. Yellow tape stretched across the entrances. Patrol cars lined the gravel road. Detectives searched every inch of the abandoned park, while volunteers called Carly's name until their voices disappeared into the trees. The search dogs found her scent almost immediately. They followed it straight to the rusted Ferris wheel. Then they stopped. Each dog slowly circled the ride 3 times. Not once, not twice. 3 times. After that, every one of them tucked its tail between its legs, whimpered, and refused to take another step. The handlers had never seen anything like it. Officers searched the funhouse, the abandoned arcade, the old snack bar, ticket booths, maintenance sheds, and every public restroom. They even climbed beneath collapsed platforms and crawled through broken service tunnels. Nothing. No footprints. No torn clothing. No blood. No Carly. The detectives reviewed security footage taken from a nearby property overlooking part of the park. At exactly 3:17 p.m., Carly appeared walking toward the Ferris wheel, still hugging her pink bunny, Then every camera facing that direction went completely black. 34 seconds. No static, no interference, just darkness. When the picture returned, Carly was gone. The Ferris wheel, which hadn't worked in decades, was turning slowly on its own. Weeks passed, but I couldn't stop searching. I watched every local news report. I joined missing child groups across Ohio. I printed old maps of Chippewa Lake Park and highlighted every forgotten trail and abandoned structure. Some strangers messaged me with sympathy. Others warned me to stop asking questions. Then one evening, I received a letter from a retired groundskeeper named Earl Voss. He refused to meet inside the park. Instead, we spoke at a diner in Medina County. His hands trembled around his coffee cup. "Carly wasn't the first," he whispered. "I remember 3 kids disappearing back in the 70s. They called them runaways. They weren't." That night, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Mommy." It was Carly. "I'm hiding with the other kids." I burst into tears. Then another voice breathed into the phone. Low, slow, impossible. "Keep counting. There are moments when grief becomes stronger than fear. If you've ever lost someone or waited for answers that never came, you'll understand why I couldn't let go." Kindly like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from and which part of the story hit you the hardest. I believe this story found you today for a reason. Now let's get back to the story. That same night, I drove back to Chippewa Lake Park. I stood outside the chain-link fence, staring at the Ferris wheel through the fog. A little girl in a white dress stood beneath it. She looked exactly like Carly. Then she reached upward. She was holding the hand of something impossibly tall. Slowly, she turned toward me. Her eyes were completely black. I couldn't move. By the time I blinked, the little girl was gone. So was the towering figure beside her. The Ferris wheel stood perfectly still again, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, I stopped trusting rumors and started looking for facts. I spent hours inside the Medina County Courthouse, reading property records, newspaper archives, and yellowed documents that hadn't been touched in decades. Long before Chippewa Lake Park opened, the land had another name. Settlers avoided it. Families refused to build homes near it. According to several journals from the early 1800s, children claimed there was something in the woods they called the Tall Walker. It never chased them. It never spoke. It simply watched from between the trees whenever children played games like hide and seek. Then, sooner or later, one child wouldn't come home. The disappearances became so common that parents eventually banned their children from entering those woods alone. Years later, when workers began building the amusement park, they uncovered something disturbing beneath the roots near the future Ferris wheel. Several tiny leather shoes. No bodies, just shoes. Construction continued anyway. I confronted Earl Voss after finding those records. His face turned pale. "I didn't tell you everything," he admitted. Then he said something that knocked the air from my lungs. Carly's father knew about those disappearances. I stared at him. Earl explained that weeks before his fatal car crash, my husband had visited Chippewa Lake Park several times, asking questions about missing children and strange sightings. He believed something there was real. I thought he was drowning in grief after losing his own father. I told him to let it go. Now I wished I had listened. When I returned home, I searched the garage. Hidden inside one of my husband's old storage boxes was a worn notebook. Several pages were filled with sketches of the Ferris wheel. One drawing showed the exact red jacket I'd seen hanging from the tree. Beneath it, my husband's handwriting read, "It chooses the child who wants to be found." My hands began shaking. Carly hadn't begged to visit the park by coincidence. She had found this notebook before I did. Somehow, something had called her there. That night, the knocking started. 3 slow knocks came from inside Carly's bedroom closet. My flashlight, sitting on the dresser with dead batteries, suddenly switched on by itself. The beam pointed toward the bed. My heart nearly stopped. Carly's pink stuffed bunny was lying on the blanket. Its fur was soaked with black mud. The police still had that bunny locked away as evidence. The next morning, I found an original blueprint of Chippewa Lake Park online. A faded maintenance tunnel ran directly beneath the Ferris wheel. I immediately called Detective Harris. The line went quiet. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. "We found that tunnel years ago. Why wasn't it in the report?" I asked. "Because," he replied, "we sealed it after hearing children laughing and screaming underground." Before I could ask another question, my phone buzzed. A video had just been sent from Carly's missing tablet. My hands trembled as I pressed play. The camera showed the Ferris wheel, then it slowly turned. Standing beneath it was me, counting 28, 29, 30, but that couldn't be possible, because according to every clock in my house, I had been asleep in my bed. I didn't wait for sunrise. That same night, I put on my green flannel, grabbed my flashlight, and carried Carly's pink stuffed bunny back to Chippewa Lake Park. The gates were still locked. I climbed over them anyway. A thick blanket of fog drifted across the ground, swallowing the cracked sidewalks and rusted rides. Then, one by one, the abandoned attractions began to move. The carousel turned. The Ferris wheel creaked. Somewhere deep in the trees, cheerful carnival music echoed through the darkness. There was no electricity. There hadn't been for decades. When I reached the Ferris wheel, the earth beneath it had opened. The hidden maintenance tunnel was waiting. I climbed down. The air was freezing. My flashlight swept across shelves of forgotten memories. Tiny shoes, old toys, melted birthday candles, faded school photographs, children's jackets hanging from twisted tree roots like trophies. The same red jacket I had seen in the woods was there. Then I heard it, soft crying. "Mom, Carly?" Her voice came from behind an old iron door. I pushed it open. Dozens of children stood silently inside a massive underground chamber. None of them spoke. None of them blinked. Near the center stood Carly. She wore a white dress. She looked peaceful, almost happy. Then something unfolded behind her. It was impossibly tall. Its arms stretched nearly to the ground. Its face had no face at all, only darkness. "Carly," I cried, "please come home." She smiled sadly. "I can," she whispered, "but only if you stay." I felt the room spin. Then she said the words I'll never forget. "Daddy's here too." My heart stopped. He didn't die because of a car accident. He escaped this place when he was little. But the tall walker always comes back for the ones who get away. She looked over her shoulder. He promised I wouldn't have to hide alone. The creature lifted one impossibly long arm toward me. Around us, every child began counting backward. 30, 29. The voices echoed through the tunnel. Closer, louder. The tall walker reached for me. 3, 2, 1. I woke beneath the Ferris wheel at sunrise. My flashlight was broken. The tunnel was gone. Police found me wandering alone. Carly Parker is still listed as a missing child. Months later, someone uploaded another cell phone video from inside Chippewa Lake Park. There she was, standing beneath the Ferris wheel, holding her pink bunny. The video shook, as if someone was breathing behind the camera. Then I heard a whisper, my own voice, "Ready or not?" The screen went black. I've stopped asking whether Carly is dead. Now I only wonder whether she's waiting. If you loved this story, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from and which part of the story hit you the hardest. We've got more powerful, emotional stories coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss them. And if you ever hear a child counting in an empty place, don't hide, because something may already be looking for you.